How's everyone doing? Energy good? No? Did we all just lie to each other? We feeling tired? Because I did. I'm so tired. But we're going to get through it. We're doing this. It's the last creative duel of the day. It's the best creative duel of the day, right?
I agree.
We think so.
That's right. That's right. So we are going to do personalization versus privacy. And so if you guys didn't know, this is a little bit of a secret. There's been a theme going on here at Nivan, past, present, future. And so now we're in the future. So we're now going to lean into maybe some things that are happening, I mean, a little bit in the present day, but then is obviously going to be impacting the future when it comes to our privacy, how much we want things to be personalized, and et cetera, and we'll get into it. And so, same format as the others. We're going to do a quick introduction, then we're going to go into the actual debate. During the debate, submit your questions. The spicier, the better. Those ones grab my attention. Maybe if there's an emoji in the Q&A poll that grabs my attention as well, feel free to submit that. And so then we'll do audience participation and then closing remarks, and then we'll determine who's a winner. Apparently there's been no winners, but we're still gonna say maybe there's a winner. Probably not. Anyways, so with that, we have Sarah, who is on team personalization, and we have Eric on team privacy. And so let's start with you, Sarah. So
We decided we were going to start with him.
Wow. Quite the jab.
I don't know what to do. You called the shots here. I like that. So, all right. Forgive me. Eric, privacy. What made you choose the topic, the side of privacy?
I will tell you, but first, in the spirit of good debate, I want to do a little bit of defining of our terms. So, privacy.
Do I need to be here?
No.
No, you can go over there if you want. It seems more
I promise
comfortable.
I'll keep it brief. So privacy is the ability to be free from observation or monitoring, right? To say it again, privacy is the ability to be free from monitoring or someone watching you, watching your behavior. And on the other side, we have personalization. You'll probably correct my definition, but it's the ability or desire to design towards an individual's specifications, right? So before we jump into the question, which is why I chose privacy, a question for you guys. In 2026, for all the companies that we work for here, and all the experience and talent that we bring to sort of shaping the ecosystems we build for customers and users, how many of you feel free from being monitored on a day-to-day basis? I want my money back. That hand needs to go down. The reason... Yeah, there you go. So that's really the foundation of my argument and the reason why I chose privacy, because privacy used to be the default. We used to just not have to worry about whether or not our privacy was being pierced in any way, right? We always could walk around with that assumption, but we didn't have all the technology and the systems and the desire to monetize the big data that comes with personalization always. And so we spent the last 20 years or so seeing a gradual increase in the degree to which data is being monetized. And I think that kind of cuts against what the goal of personalization is, because oftentimes the way that information is used is not in the best interest of the customers that are leveraging the personalization tools. So,
And I totally disagree.
I figured as much.
Love that. But I mean, okay, Sarah, now, I mean, if it's okay, what made you choose personalization then?
So I come from a CX background, UX background, and I'm actually going to approach my topic from both an economic approach and then also an ethical approach. And I think that personalization is a tool that can be used to get to the heart of customer experience because customers want to be known. And we know that 32% of customers will leave a brand that they love. So not even just like regular old schmo brand, but 32% of customers will leave a brand that they love after one bad experience. And after like two, it gets up to like 59. And I think that treating a loyal customer like Jane or John Doe is a bad experience.
This is interesting. I feel like the vibes here is like they actually like truly believe in your stance on these sides. It's not just like theatrics of like, oh, we're picking a side and we're debating it. I mean, maybe that's probably the case, but I mean, it feels like there's a lot of like rationale and justification and reasoning for actually choosing this side and kind of like firmly believing and sticking to it. So beautiful, love it. So with that, let's kick it off with a quick little question, and let's just see where the vibes go from here. So, what should matter more in a digital experience? Relevance in the moment or trust over time? Let's start with Eric.
Trust over time.
I knew it.
Yeah, period. You guys saw that one coming. I think the piece of the relationship between personalization and privacy is not that there isn't a way for them to coexist, but I see privacy as the foundation upon which personalization has to rest, right? So it's not that I don't recognize that there are benefits of personalization, but I think those benefits are eroded if there's not trust in how that information is obtained and used through informed consent for people actually engaging in these systems. So over time, definitely, it's always got to be trust, which I would, again, love to ask you guys what you think about how much you can trust the companies leveraging your data, but I know the answer, so we'll throw it over to Sarah.
And will you repeat the question?
Absolutely. So I feel like I know which stance is going to be yours, but what should matter more in a digital experience, relevance in the moment or trust over time? So relevance in the moment.
I think that relevance in the moment creates trust over time. So when you're interacting, when a consumer or customer is interacting with your brand, they're giving you something each and every time. They're giving you their preferences, their behavior, and if you don't do something with that, if you just treat them like generic is not neutral. And so it is more trustworthy if you, say for example, loyalty programs, right? Or like hotels, where I have a certain hotel brand that I check into and they know I like a higher floor and a softer pillow. So if I had to tell them each and every time that I want a higher floor or a softer pillow, I would be like, do you not listen to me?
Yeah, but then if they sold your data to pillow companies and you constantly got pillow advertisements and stuffed through your mailbox every day, that would kind of counteract the sense of trust that was built by knowing what you like when you do what they want you to do. And I think that's my thing here is like, the benefits in personalization are very much guardrailed towards the benefits to the company. It's not the same thing. Some of the talks earlier were talking about how can we leverage AI for what I actually want to do. So the guardrails for personalization as we've seen it are always skewed towards what the company needs, which is why they send you a 45,000 page T's and C's to like download an app for, somebody had a clown business earlier. So.
Next you know, the My Pillow guy is knocking on your door like, hello.
No, I have nothing to do with that man.
Yeah.
His pillows are not soft enough, and I do not like his politics.
Agreed. All right, anyways, moving on from that touchy subject. But you brought up an interesting point, Sarah, from relevance in the moment builds trust.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like you need the relevance to build trust. But what if that relevance potentially is already eroding trust by design, meaning the data is being sold? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that personalization is selling data. Like, I think that I don't agree with your premise of the argument. I think that personalization is using data properly. Sure, if they're selling the data, I'm not standing up here saying that I am a proponent of stealing people's data and selling it too. I'm saying I'm a proponent of using personalization as a tool to better enhance customer experience.
Which I agree with in the abstract, but the degree to which any of these companies allow you to personalize is in direct relation to what they can do with the data that they get from that personalization. So I don't think you can disconnect them. I think they are connected always and forever. So the trust has to come in with them being willing to show you what I'm going to do with the data up front and not obscure that. And again, there's like, just Google whatever you want. There's like literally billions of cases of data being used for all sorts of things that was not communicated to folks up front. And it's had real negative impacts on the trust boundary between companies and their customers.
It also makes life a lot easier, because who was it that said that we, as humans, we're kind of lazy? It helps us to be lazy. It helps us to not have to wade through all the schlock to get to the stuff that we actually care about, because it's personalized, your experience is more personalized, you're not just getting a generic, view of the digital world.
What if it comes to children?
I don't have any. He does.
So then I'm right, no matter what I say.
Abstaining from that topic. Can someone debate on behalf of children and personalization?
Children probably like it because they're lazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just an iPad and like, download app, download app, download app,
But
buy this.
that's not what we're talking about. Like, you're kind of taking it to the furthest extreme. And I'm
Well, I
certainly
mean,
not
I'm taking
standing
it to
up
the
here saying
furthest
that.
extreme because I'm actually kind of leaning into a question that was in the Q&A here, which was, how would your perspective change if you found out that a younger consumer doesn't care as much about privacy, or maybe even doesn't even know about privacy?
Well, whether or not they say they care, there's all sorts of reasons why that might be the case, but it's clear that, you know, young folks in particular have been affected by the way data is monetized on platforms to literally skew their self-image, their mental health. So I don't think you can disconnect these things. I agree with personalization, but if there isn't real, we were talking about the social contract earlier, right? Like, I think there is genuinely an obligation that we need to reestablish, which is why I want designers and people making these products and services to bring these things up in those early sessions, in those vision sessions. Like, do we have the slide up? We do. I forgot to talk about the slide.
I did too.
Okay, it's no problem. So we put this together. I won't bore you with the details. It's a basic 2x2. We've seen 40 of those today. But essentially, we're arguing between the fortress and the risk zone, right? The fortress is where it's complete privacy, but to Sarah's point, there's no personalization. I'd argue that we are like well into the risk zone with the way that we're handling data and personalization now. Doesn't mean that there couldn't be more benefits to it, but we wanted to put this slide together so you folks are thinking about this when you're putting together experiences for your context. So.
Yeah, it's a spectrum for sure, right? And we're the point of this exercise is to get up here, and I'm on one side of, and he's over there. But I would say also that there's the legal world needs to come into this too. So I don't know. There needs to be some laws within the personalization aspect. I'm not in any way purporting that there should be like a free for all and to be taking advantage of children or people who don't read the big reams of, you know, myself included. I don't really read that stuff, but with that withstanding, then I would say personalization all the way.
Well, what would be an ideal situation, an ideal world then? I mean, if you could wave a magic wand and maybe there is some like law or legislation, some guardrails in place for personalization, what would that look like? And maybe the same for privacy as well too.
Yeah, I think it's the upper right quadrant of the 2x2 here, right? The sweet spot is one, in my opinion, that forefronts the trust contract, right? Like making things clear. I mean, we're all, maybe not all, but there's many designers here, right? We can develop a better way to communicate how data is going to be used and forcing someone to read one of those contracts, right? Even if they still have to sign it. So I think there is a way forward that would, you know, take privacy as that foundation so that you could know how your data is going to be used when you engage with the personalized experiences.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, privacy absolution sounds sound until you think about the costs that come of not being relevant. And when I think about relevant, I think about it in two different ways. Relevance for what you're serving up to your customer based on their history and but also relevance for the brand to your customer. If you aren't treating them like they've had a conversation with you before, they're not going to return to you. That 32%, that 59%, that relevance to your brand in your customer's mind, they'll go to somebody who makes it easier and allows them to be lazier. And a more enjoyable experience, not just the laziness, but that's, you know, don't make me think, like 101.
It's not what I'm saying, though, to be clear. I want folks to understand how they're engaging, right? You can have the personalization. It's that you have the clarity when engaging. You have that informed consent, so people are making a choice, right? You get access to whatever you want, but you have to do that knowing what's likely going to happen. And I think you are right in this perspective. There is a cost.
Thank you.
There is a cost that I think all of us need to ask ourselves, is the company that you work for willing to pay that cost, right? I think you all probably have an answer in your head right now as to what that would be, but should that remain so? Should that be the thing that we simply accept? Or, you know, should we be thinking about ways to renegotiate some of those social contracts to where we can have a more informed relationship and benefit from the personalization thereafter?
Yeah, because personalization is a tool. I mean, I think that was one of the first things I said. It's a tool, I think, that goes to the heart of a good customer experience, but it's a tool, and just like, you know, you can use forks the wrong way.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. And personalization is a tool, but I think privacy is a right. I think privacy is a right. And I think there is an ought there for all of us. Because again, even though I paid that person, they raised their hand, which I don't believe you that you feel like you're free from being monitored. So yeah, I think that really lays out the discrepancy there. I think privacy is a right.
Well, you brought up the point of informed consent. There's two parts to that, informed and consent. And so being consensual, and I'm willing to give up some level of information for an interaction, for a personalized experience, for whatever. There is consent. But then there's also that anchor of informed. Mm-hmm. When does it actually, what would informed look like versus it just being manipulation? Which is, hey, here's some TNC, hit this checkbox, move on.
I think that's a space for innovation, honestly. I think that we can do better about describing how something might be used. There's not a company out there that's done this yet for obvious reasons, but I think there's potential ways, and that's part of our job, our piece of the puzzle, is to figure out a way to actually communicate the value of the product in relationship to what customers might be giving up. And Sarah is right that people absolutely want personalization, but studies show that people are also really worried about what people do with their data, right? They only want certain kinds. Like, so for example, people aren't really as worried about like site visits, tracking that, where I went, or my purchase preferences, right? But when it gets further into the weeds, people start getting really a lot more uncomfortable with how that information is being used and where it's going and how or why it's stored. So I just think it's a slippery slope argument, but I think we have enough evidence to show that we are on that slippery slope.
Yeah, and I think that, but to your point, it's a really good question. And then I was looking around for Mr. Parts, and I was like, where is he? And you, Mr. Parts, you designed, Nick, right? You designed the EOB and redesigned an EOB, which I used to work in healthcare, and I understand that, like, that's where I met Nikita, actually. And that is, like, one of the most arduous, painful, we're capable of making really nebulous ideas more clear with design. And so that's what we should be actually doing, and then that way we would both win.
Which is going to happen anyway.
Which is going to happen anyway.
Right.
So.
This is interesting. Maybe I personally just have less energy at the end of the day where I'm just like, oh, this needs to be a debate. It's a joint conversation, not just like wherever this goes.
I still think that personalization is more important than privacy.
There we go. That's the energy.
Stand with that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's hard to. This is sort of a fabricated thing, right? And I'm putting on the mask of like, personalization, and he's, wants to go back to the Stone Age. Like that's not really what we're saying. That's not really
Agreed.
what we're saying. But in truth, that is where I would stand. Had I had to do an arm wrestle, who was going to win, personalization versus privacy, I would say personalization until privacy kicks me in the ass, and then I'll probably say privacy.
Well, okay, how about, so I feel like we've been leaning into this maybe, how to put it, maybe like not surface level, but probably more common use cases of personalization, personalized experiences, and privacy concerns. Maybe leaning into a little bit more of like some extreme edge cases. Well, actually, it's probably not an edge case. I'm going to think of maybe like what's going on overseas in, say, like China, where privacy is pretty much non-existent at that point. But are they sacrificing their privacy for personalized experiences? I don't know.
Do you think there's highly personalized experiences? Is that what you're...
In China?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool if it was.
I'll let you sign up for that.
If they have it, let's go. But what about when it comes to like extreme edge cases? Like, let's use like say China as an example, or I'm thinking of like the 23andMe, where next your blood type, your DNA.
Exactly.
Right. So where?
But your blood type and your DNA is getting your cousin in trouble for doing something wrong. I'm okay with that. Your cousin shouldn't have done something wrong.
Valid. Don't do criminal shit and you'll be all right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think your example is a good one because it highlights, where the boundary of what we can do, right, bumps into sort of the larger cultural context. And I just don't think you can separate those things, right? So we're making decisions about how we use technology, what that means for people, how it enables choice all the time, every day. And I think you have to look at these things and design for the context that you're in, right? So I think regardless of what's going on in China, we have an ethos here about informed consent and choice, and that's something that we should embrace when talking about how we balance these things on that 2x2 over there.
And the context in which we're talking about personalization is mostly through, I'm assuming, our organizations, our jobs, our businesses. And there are no businesses without customers, and customers will leave if you act like you don't know them.
Yes. However, I do think that it's very clear the way that our industry in part has manipulated data to affect the culture itself, right? I think that is just like undeniable. We don't have a shared sense of facts anymore. We don't have a shared sense of the town square. I mean, again, for all the benefits that it does provide, unchecked with that foundation of privacy, I think we clearly know the direction that this is going. And I think it's one that we shouldn't go down. It's not that we can't have it. It's that we need to check it with a real dedication to the right of privacy.
I don't think there's a lot of privacy in in town squares. I think there was like a lot of
But
buzzing about.
You can determine whether or not you are or are not in the town square,
True.
right?
Well, just don't
That's
go on
the
their
choice.
website then.
Huh?
Just don't buy pillows.
Well, I'm kind of thinking here, there was a good question, actually a good amount of good questions here. I mean, they're all good questions, but it's like...
Nice save.
Thank you. I'm trying here. It's the end of the day, man. I'm trying. But what if we're getting away or giving away our data? And again, this is not just in a digital landscape, a digital environment, online shopping, social media, anything like that. We're giving away our data, but then say there's no personalized experience, which I think is pretty common. I mean, I feel like that is probably more common than you might actually think. I mean, because the one question that came out that made me think about this was that, so tell me about how marginalized communities are impacted by personalization and privacy. I feel like there's no privacy and there's no personalization within some of those communities. What are your guys' thoughts?
The suggestion is that they might be in the void, right? On that 2x2 matrix. He's giving you the time signal. That's what the pointing at the wrist thing is.
Thank you. I needed
Yeah,
that.
no problem. I mean, I think the question is personalization for who, in what context. I don't think we've seen that upper right quadrant. I don't think anybody here actually knows what it looks like to have the sweet spot where you feel like you can trust the platform you're engaging with and actually getting stuff that you want out of it. It's a very small subset of the things that happen to co-align with or align with what the business needs. And that's great, right? If they're not sending you pillow advertisements, but you want to hope that there's more. And I think it's to get to those marginalized communities, you have to ask broader questions that are outside of the tech or the design of the actual product.
Absolutely. Thoughts, Sarah?
No.
Those thoughts are private.
Now
It
that's
was-
a nice
it was-
save. Now that's a nice save. All right, Carlos, are we getting close to time?
We're getting close to time.
Okay.
Do one more.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I felt like we were a little off with our cadence here, but all right, so we're going to just randomly pick one more question, dive into it, and then we'll do some closing remarks here. And so, for privacy, you're making the economic argument for the company, not the user. How about companies paying the customer when they sell their data?
I don't necessarily think that it's an economic argument for, yeah, sure, for the company, yes, but there's also an economic component to personalization for, that I don't wear wool sweaters. You now have a discount on non-wool sweaters. So I now am able to save some money because you know me and are able to promote something to me. And then there's also probably less waste, right? Because I'm not returning as much. Like I think that there's a lot of ripple effects to good personalization, not some of this nefarious personalization that we're talking about, but good personalization when your digital experience is, I think I'm stealing from Suzanne, but when it's used to make your life feel like you. And that is where there's an economic benefit for both the consumer as well as the business.
Eric, your turn.
I forgot the question.
I did too. So, it is, for privacy, you are making the economic argument for the company, not the user. How about companies paying the customer when they sell their data?
I love that. I mean, at least there would be something that I'm getting out of it. There'd be sort of a return on that investment. I'd prefer to have both, and where you have the consent and some recognition that there's value for that exchange beyond just the transaction that you were allowed to make, or you can change the emoji on your profile. I mean, like that's, it should be more than that. So I think that's a viable, interesting model to think about in a way that would at least see some value given back to people for that extended value for the company.
But I think that's already sort of part of the point. When you give when I give access to my data, it is transactional, and so therefore I expect you to allow me to be lazy, make things easier for me. That is the point of why I did that. And so giving me 2 cents or whatever, like don't give me the 2 cents, just make it a better experience for me so I stick with your business rather than going to your competitor who's made it easier for me.
I think that's fair, but I'm also greedy, and I think that making money by selling my data 17 times down the road is, yeah, I wouldn't mind having a cut of that if I'm gonna think it's worthwhile to get the sweater I want, then yeah, it'd be a nice value add to get a kickback every time they sold it again. That would be interesting. I think, again, that points back to the legislation. I mean, I was talking with a friend last night, and in certain countries, they have laws where you can't actually email your employees after work hours. That's like the best thing I've ever heard, right? And like, and again, that brings us squarely back to the social sphere. Like, what are we all going to say about the world we want to live in? And there's a space there for legislation that could explore some of these options that I think is really interesting.
Very interesting, and very interesting topic. So we're going to wrap it up here. Let's give a round of applause for Sarah and Eric here. Thank you, guys. But first, curious, what is everyone's thoughts here? So for team personalization, let's hear it. Who's on that side? Yeah. Perfect. And who is on team privacy? Yeah. Okay, definite winner. There was a winner this time.
Damn it.
I'm sorry.
Was
Sarah.
it me?
No, it was Eric. It was definitely Eric. All right, let's give him a round of applause one more time. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.